Hello again, everybody. I'm your host, Felipe, and you're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. And with me, as always, is Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing this evening?
Well, we're doing great. I mean, this is winter meetings, just finished up a 13-hour shift at work, a weekday total basis podcast show. We haven't had one of those in a while.
I was explaining. I was there last Monday, so
Okay. Well, with me, I have not done a
yeah,
weekday
you
one in a
haven't done.
while. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which that Hall of Fame show was very fun. By the way, I did watch a couple little highlights of it while I was off work. Um,
nice.
but yeah, Hall of Fame, winter meetings, this Rule 5 draft. I was at work yesterday. I still had 2.5 hours left of my shift, and I listened to the simulcast of the Rule 5 draft and the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. If you
Nice.
doubt my commitment, I listened to names I have no clue who they are and would immediately look them up on Fangraphs just to be like, for shits and gigs. So,
Well, that's what we're going to be doing today, just for giggles. We're going to discuss some of the highlights of the winter meetings. It was a very I say it was a more spirited version of the winter meetings, especially considering what we've have gone through lately. Some of these winter meetings has been as dead as the winter, but I believe this one was pretty lively. Would you say so yourself over there?
oh, yeah, for sure. And I think kind of the whole lockdown situation last year, or not lockdown, lockout. And then you had the lockdown before that and the lockdown before. No. So you had a lockdown and a lockout, which kind of dispirited the winter meetings, as you would say. And this year, the gift of holiday cheer was abundant. With I think we've already crossed the $2 billion threshold given
Oh,
out in guaranteed money.
I thought we were at 1.5 billion at this point, but
I thought we
we
had
went
gotten
over.
I thought we got over it with
It's
the judge one.
it's pretty high up there, so I believe it.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
with
been
Correa and Swanson still to go, I mean that's
yeah. There's don't tell me these owners don't have any money to spend. They clearly do. So but let's start. You mentioned it, the Aaron Judge one. We'll start with Aaron Judge. We're at the Fangraphs offseason tracker. So if you want to follow along with us, you can. And we are going to discuss the guys who are projected to get the highest wins above replacement for next year. Aaron Judge is at 6.9. So he looks like he's going to be winning another AL MVP with the Yankees, signing that gargantuan deal. Oh, it looks like it's 8 years, $300 million, according to Fangraphs.
well, that was
Uh,
the crowdsource. That was
that
the
was a
crowdsource.
crowdsource, so that's
Yeah,
not even the real
he
money.
got 9,360.
Oh, right there. I see it now.
Yep, on the far right side.
I see it now. Yeah, average annual value of $40 million. That's a lot more than we anticipated, right? Everybody was talking maybe 200 million or maybe 280, but not over 300, and he ends up getting 360, and for 9 years. So Aaron Judge bet on himself, and he wins out big.
Yeah, for sure. And he was always the Yankees were kind of I thought the Giants were more of a dark horse with the whole going home thing. They definitely had a good shot. San Diego was right there with the highest offer of them all, which blew my mind. I want to say I heard 10 years, 400 million on the table for Aaron Judge from San Diego, but he turned that down to cement his legacy as probably one of the next Yankee greats. For a guy that debuted at such a late age, the Hall of Fame is really a hard task to accomplish for him. And I always thought if he cared about legacy in his post-playing career, if he had split time between New York and San Francisco, that'd be kind of hard. Um, and now, as a Yankee, the next 9 years, he'll be there his entire career. 99 will go up in the bleachers, and he'll be out there in Monument Park. Granted, I was telling a buddy, I think he's going to look not very nice in bronze, but at least he'll be in bronze.
He's already bronzed up, man. He's biracial, isn't he?
Yeah, the metal bronze.
Oh, the
Not
metal
not
bronze.
the tone.
The metal bronze, not the music. Big shout out to Matt Whelan, Jacob Moses, Austin is listening, and Angel Morales listening in this evening. Glad to have you all along here. That's Aaron Judge. He gets the gargantuan deal. Probably going to be, people are kind of mocking him. And don't forget the Dodgers were also in on that California sweepstakes to get him to move back to the West Coast. But obviously, for reasons you just mentioned, he decided to stay in New York. But the big concern is, can he stay healthy? And we've seen what happens when he stays healthy and
Mm-hmm.
the big numbers that he can put up. So it's a tough sell, but it is what it is. You just
Yep.
paid him a lot of money so he could stay healthy and kind of repeat the 2022 season, which I don't know. It just depends what kind of balls they're using, right, Sean?
Granted, when it comes to Aaron Judge, I'm not sure really if it matters in terms of his
matters.
home.
It always matters.
Of course it does. But once again, huge shout out to good old Arson Judge. I will say when Heyman first put out the Arson Judge tweet, I didn't even notice that it said Arson. I just saw Giants and immediately ran to my 30 team group chat and said, okay, Aaron Judge is going to the Giants. He's on the market. I'm trading him now. And then walked back 15 minutes later. And then the next morning signs with the Yankees. And I went back to the group chat. And I told the guys, okay, never mind. He's a Yankee. He's off the market. He can hit home runs for another 8 years in my lineup. That's okay.
Damn, you're about to sell low on Aaron Judge.
I'd be going to San Francisco.
Oh boy. Well, the next guy, we stay in New York. Well, not really New York. He also left New York. Jacob deGrom is the next guy here with a projected WAR of 5.5. He goes to the Texas Rangers with a 5-year, $185 million, $37 million on average deal. Kind of surprised everybody, but I mean, you just mentioned Aaron Judge to the Yankees being like the perfect combination of things. DeGrom going to that gargantuan stadium in Texas could only bode well, and who knows, maybe he'll let him stay healthy longer than what we're used to at this point, right?
Yeah, with this one, I had told you before we decided to push back this show to today to accommodate the winter meetings. I told you that when you first brought up DeGrom, I wasn't going to talk about it because I think his signing just was so small in comparison compared to both Kyle Gibson and Jordan Lyles going back to Baltimore. That's the real pitching moves here. And we know how Felipe loves his Baltimore Orioles pitchers. But no, Jacob deGrom leaving, yes, personally as a Mets fan, was a kick in the gonads for sure. But I'm happy for Jacob. He went to a place where I can actually root for him. He didn't go to Atlanta, didn't go to Philly, got out of the National League, thank God. And he goes to a situation, I know a lot of people were just so blown away that he had 5 years. It really wasn't shocking to me. I always expected there were likely multiple teams with 4-year offers. Surprisingly, the Mets ended up not being one of those teams. But I could have seen multiple teams going at him, especially at 35, 37 million. And I kind of expected the only differentiating factor would be who would give him the 5th year or the extra 5th year option. Ends up getting 5 guaranteed years with a 6-year option. And it's definitely a gamble for Texas, but count out Jacob deGrom at your own peril. That's the only thing I can say.
Just want to quickly go back to Aaron Judge since we talked about, do the balls really matter? Well, according to Ariel Cohen at the beginning of the season, Sean, you'll appreciate this. I have my spreadsheet from way back in March that Austin helped put together here. Aaron Judge was supposed to get in 628 plate appearances. He was supposed to hit 39 home runs, which would have been good enough for tie for 4th place behind guys like Rafael Devers, Pete Alonso, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Fernando Tatis Jr. So
psych.
So, no, I mean, you say the balls don't matter, but clearly, I mean, I know these projections are kind of conservative by nature, but
yeah.
I think
they for sure matter. I was being facetious, and I also
I thought you were serious.
No. I'm granted. I mean, he's just such a large man, and he hits the ball so hard that I feel like he just muscles it out rather than kind of playing the loft game. But I do find it very interesting that the Arson Judge tweet came out only an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours after that article was reported about the 3 different balls that were used in the 2020 what year was it, 2022 season. I thought that was very did Heyman do that on purpose? Did he go full stroke just to help out MLB and hopefully hide the news? I don't know. That would be a very Heyman thing to do.
And I already forgot. I know we did the awards not too long ago, but who won the National League MVP again?
National League MVP was, oh my goodness. Stall for me. I believe it was not Harper. Paul Goldschmidt. Yeah.
Oh wow!
I almost said Arenado, but I was right team, wrong person.
So Aaron Judge was projected to get a 5.2 WAR according to Ariel Cohen's projections back in March. That would have been
doubled that, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah, and that would have been good enough for 9th place in this league. In his projections, but the best player in the American League would have gone to Mike Trout, it looks like, or even Vladimir Guerrero, depending on what you are looking for there. Goldschmidt, just to get an idea, was supposed to finish 43rd.
And it's funny because Goldschmidt had a great 2021 too, and I was trying to sell high on Goldschmidt last year. I had actually sent out an offer. It was going to be built around in the 30 team. It was going to be built around Judge and Goldschmidt, and Trout and somebody else, some pitcher, I think, good starting pitcher, was going to be the return.
Paul Goldschmidt was supposed to have he tied for 42nd with Joey Gallo among F4.
Last year?
No, for the projections.
Projections, yeah.
They were supposed to finish almost simultaneously together at a 3.4 WAR this year.
Drop an F in the chat for Joey Gallo. What was it? You said it was 4 point something or just 42nd?
Yeah, they were tied for 32nd along with guys like Yohan Moncada. Oh, yeah, so it was a three-way tie between
what was the projected WAR?
3.4.
3.4. Wow.
Yeah, for Gallo, Goldschmidt, and Moncada. So that's why you play the games, folks. That's why you play the games. So, I did a good job drafting Aaron Judge earlier this year. All right, enough of that. Carlos Correa and Brandon Nimmo are still free agents as of right now, at least last I checked.
Yes,
who gets signed first?
I think right now, and I kind of expected this to happen at the winter meetings after the Judge card fell. I was expecting Brandon Nimmo to sign. I think the thing with him is he has such an extensive market because he's not going to cost the 30, 35, 40 million dollars a year. Granted, I think he's going to get way more than people expect. I think it's going to be close to around 25 million a year, 23, 24, probably 6 years. And right now, the team that I'm seeing the most smoke from is Toronto. And I think roster-wise, great fit. They need a lefty bat. They need an outfielder after trading Teoscar Hernandez. But I don't think I see Nimmo going to Toronto. The Mets are kind of hanging around. But aside from Verlander and how aggressively that and quickly that happened, the Mets have seemed very apathetic this offseason in the winter meetings. They offered Jacob deGrom 3/120 and basically said, take it or leave it. There didn't seem to be much negotiating. Jacob deGrom said in his press conference today, he said, we were in contact with the Mets, but the Rangers were in constant communication with us. So the Mets, I think, probably thinking they're being outpriced on Nimmo. It just depends on how much they want him back, because it's hard to sign guys if you can't show to them how much you want them. And I think that's something that a team can do. It just takes effort, and you have to want to do it rather than being a passive contributor or a passive negotiator or a passive team of interest, whatever you want to call it. But I have no clue. I think there's so many places he could go, and there could be teams that we're not even thinking of that aren't even that good that could just sneak in there because I think he has the skill set.
The Cubs,
teams Cubs. I had mentioned the Reds earlier this year. Obviously, the Reds have done next to nothing so far this offseason. So probably not them, but I thought that would be a fun fit. But could be New York, either New York. Granted, Judge, I think, takes him out on Nimmo.
We move on to Trey Turner. That was another big deal. Once again, the Padres were involved. Austin, by the way, he says that he'll take Nimmo on the Angels right now.
Can't have him. Sorry.
I don't know, for the way these players are rejecting the state of California, maybe that's not going to happen. But getting back to Trey Turner, who ditched California to go back to the East Coast and play in Philly, 11 years, $300 million, another gargantuan deal for a 30-year-old guy. The 27.27 average annual salary. I'm just looking at the Phillies right now. They don't really have much in the farm system, so this is pretty much it for them. It's what we talk about when you sign Bryce Harper to a big deal and to a very extremely long-term deal. You have to do whatever it takes to kind of plug and play your major league roster. And right now, Trey Turner's projected to bat leadoff for them. uh, followed by Kyle Schwarber, Reese Hoskins, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos. Somewhere in there belongs Bryce Harper. Hopefully not number 4 again, like they did last year. That was a mistake. But after Castellanos, the talent level just kind of falls off. Derek Hall is
I think they have Derek Hall as the fill-in for Harper until Harper's back, which could be May or June. And of course, they could make another addition. And Derek Hall is a nice little platoon bat versus right-handed pitching.
Yeah, but in the meantime, that's who they have. It's not a good look. It looks like a very pedestrian lineup after Castellanos bats 5th. Alec Boehm, who is like the Jekyll and Hyde of that team. Bryson Stott, who now has to move to 2nd. So they lose Gene Segura, who was known for his clutch hitting. And then Brandon Marsh's putrid offense is supposed to be offset by his defense. And then the bench isn't that strong. And it just depends. They also end up getting Taijuan Walker this offseason, which to me, that's like a ticking time bomb. I don't trust him too
especially
much.
in Philly. Ooh.
Especially in Philly. Good point. Austin's asking, do you like Brandon Nimmo to the Twins?
I'm not sure the Twins are interested. Like, I could see the Twins going in an opposite direction. I see them trading possibly an outfielder. If I had to guess who the Blue Jays get as their outfielder, I would guess from the Twins, it'd be Max Kepler. The Blue Jays trying to offload one of those catchers. Twins could move Kepler. That's a win-win for either team.
Austin's mentioning the Cubs are weirdly in a lot of players this year. Yeah, the owner has been public about being active in the free agent market, but I honestly think he just says that to rile up the fan base and get them to purchase season tickets with the promise that there will be free agents coming to the north side of Chicago, which if you're a Cub fans, just shut the hell up and buckle your seatbelt, because this is what you all wanted. You wanted the rebuild. This is what a rebuild looks. And it's not even a real rebuild. We talked about it. They got a bunch of 30-year-old scrubs and a bunch of high-level prospects who are nowhere near ready. At least the fact that Brendan Davis is nowhere near ready should be alarming. And he already has all these back issues. Anyway, don't get me talking about the Cubs. They're not worth talking. They're not worth talking at this point.
Andrew Benintendi for the Cubs?
That's not too bad. It
makes so much sense. Like, just in terms of everything, how they've built that roster, the player types, the Nico Horners, the Nick Madrigals. Throw Andrew Benintendi in there, and they can all just be Slappy McGee's. Look, I can talk like you.
That's impressive, Sean. That's impressive. I didn't know you had it in you. But I mean, you're gonna get rid of. I think Ian Happ is a free agent, right?
Oh no, he has one more year, I believe.
Oh, okay. So then it was Contreras, and they didn't trade him, so they end up. Please tell me the Cubs at least got a some sort of prospect. Or
they offered they gave him the qualifying offer.
So we got a 3rd round pick, maybe.
I'm trying to think in their situation. They weren't above the luxury tax, but they don't receive revenue sharing. After round 2, 3, I can double check. Just keep going.
Anyway, so getting back to the Phillies, they I hope they don't think they're done, because they have a lot of holes to plug in still. The bullpen played a lot better. We talked about that last year. But after that, I'm looking at their minor league system, and it's kind of plain. It's kind of plain. So like a kid's cheeseburger, you know how they always. I want it plain. I don't want no pickles or mustard. So that's what the Phillies look like once you talk about we talk about it all the time. They're a top-heavy lineup. It's a miracle they got to the World Series, and to expect Bryce Harper to carry that team and trying to recover from Tommy John is just not fair to him. But that's why he gets paid the big bucks, and so do the other guys. So we'll see.
You see that is the thing with the addition of Trey Turner, which I think the most surprising part was the 11 years. I find the Phillies and the Padres, kind of in very similar circumstances right now, with very top-heavy lineups, lots of like uber talent. I mean, obviously, some of the best hitters, position players in baseball. But the Padres are going to play the first roughly month without Fernando Tatis. Right. The Phillies are going to play roughly the first 2 or 3 months without Bryce Harper. Things could get very interesting very quickly. And I mean, obviously they have the talent to overcome that, but you know, these teams, as great as they look on paper right now, a lot can change between now and just say the trade deadline, which if the Padres crash and burn, I think I've said this before in a previous episode. If the Padres somehow crash and burn and none of this works out, one, AJ Preller is losing his job sooner or later. But I wouldn't be surprised if it just went full fire sale. Trade Hader, trade Soto, maybe even trade Machado. Machado waives his no trade clause and then opts out at the end of the year. I could really see it just going kind of crazy, but that's very low on the.
Because I asked you on a private chat if Preller's job was in trouble, and I could have sworn you said that it would take a lot to get him ousted out of San Diego, but then
I think it's if they don't win the next 2 years, and depending on how the first 2 months, 3 months of this season goes for the Padres, if they have a great record, then they're fine. But I really do think they have to win in these next 2 years while Soto's there. Obviously, Bogarts, who's coming up next on our list. Bogarts, Machado, Tatis. I think the Machado Tatis thing is very interesting. Machado could opt out. If they don't trade Tatis, does that guarantee that Machado opts out? Because we know they had their tiffs in the last couple of years. But I think it's a situation that could go very, very good for AJ Preller or very, very bad. We've seen him have these crazy off seasons, and he's always recovered. He tore it all down, or he built it, bought everything, sold everything, bought it again, sold it again, and now he's bought it again. Yeah. And it's a very thin line to cross with AJ Preller, and we'll see what he does.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like I tell people, you rather your team be active and just try, or you could be like the Pirates and don't try and be miserable like all the Pirate fans are in this group. So, but I honestly think if by June they're at 500, I think he's in deep, deep trouble.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, they need to be doing extremely well. Tatis needs to be back, and that locker room has to not be bubbling over. Right. Because not only just in the next 2 years is Soto there, Hader's a free agent at the end of the year, and then Snell and Darvish, I believe, are free agents after this year or next year. So there's a lot of, it's a short window for how many guys they have locked up long term in terms of the roster as a whole, I think.
Yeah. Carlos Rodon is still a free agent. I think I mentioned it before on this show. He should just stay out on the West Coast and go off into the sunset, but looks like he's
Sanford. I haven't heard anything from San Francisco about him. That, like, they gave him that 1 year with the one option just to see, and then I've heard zero about them wanting to re-sign him. And I think with the White Sox not offering a qualifying offer, the Giants basically saying, "Okay, we're glad we got the 1 year out of him. We're not even in on him as a free agent." I just worry that, like you said, was the other player, ticking time bomb, which we've always known Rodon kind of to be. But could you see a short-term deal to the Dodgers, maybe?
I mean, hey, they gave a chance to Tyler Anderson and Tommy Conley, and was it Andrew Haney as well on that team?
Yeah.
I mean, it's another left-handed pitcher, so why not?
I mean, right? Does he end up settling for another 2-year deal like those guys did? It would be at a much higher AAV than
right. It would have to
or
be
Anderson.
Lot,
yeah. But 2 years, $30 million each, maybe. I don't. It seems the Dodgers are in on a lot of these guys, but like the Mets, they've found that, hey, we're not going to give the guy the 8, the 9, the 10 million. Obviously, the Mets did it for Lindor and the Dodgers did it for Betts, but they're not going to dip into that type of contract more than they need to. We saw that with the Bauer deal and whatnot. So I just don't know where Rodon's going. I would think Yankees or Dodgers would be my two best guesses.
John Morosi today suggested even the Red Sox, and his price tag can go a little bit over $200 million range.
That's insane. A lot of Mets fans wanted him, and I was saying 2 years of Verlander is infinitely better than being stuck with Rodon for 6 or 7 years. I mean, that was my nightmare scenario, was that they would not re-sign DeGrom, and then they'd turn around and give Rodon 6 or 7 years. That was nightmare fuel for me.
Morosi, there are still some really high-end teams, some of the biggest spending clubs in the sport who still need pitching, specifically the Dodgers. They're one team that we know was involved in the Jacob deGrom conversation, the Justin Verlander conversation. They have not yet addressed that they have not yet addressed that need that they have in the starting rotation. Knowing the Dodgers, though, they're probably going to go for a cheaper
Bobby
alternative.
Bobby Miller. I think that's another reason that the Dodgers have kind of been quiet this free agency is they have so many top prospects and they
Yeah.
kind of got pilfered in the Rule 5 draft as well for guys that weren't on their 40 man because they have so many good players that they can't fit them all on the roster. But I could see, Ryan Pepio made his debut last year. Bobby Miller could fill into that spot in the rotation. That could be why they're not kind of going after these guys as full heartedly as they might want to.
Austin, how about Rodon to the Twins? Twins have to sign someone, right? I would say that Rodon doesn't fit their mold of a pitcher, right? Because they always want these highly controlled artists who don't walk a lot of guys and also don't strike out too many guys either. So Rodon is kind of an outlier in that regard, right?
If the Twins can't retain Carlos Correa, which I think is kind of their number one priority right now, is bringing Correa back. I could see that possibly. I think they need other things more, but that would make them a player in the West or in the Central for sure.
Morosi also suggests that the fact that Bogarts ended up with the Padres, this could be like them showing their fan base, see, we got something this offseason. We got Carlos Rodon. So, and then of course the Yankees are still interested. So yeah, it's like Morosi said, a lot of high-end teams looking for rotation help. Bogarts to the Padres, I think we kind of touched base on that.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Another 11-year contract to a 30-year-old. That the Padres offering, and I'm assuming that they offered 11 to Trey Turner because, like I said, it was rumored that they had the highest offer for both Judge and Turner. Xander seems like a guy that could age well, but he also has some sketchy numbers outside of Fenway.
Yeah,
it's the professional approach. You just wonder how many of those F7s turned into doubles and if he can adjust to maybe. I mean, he's a solid line drive hitter, always has been. But how can he permanently adjust to life outside of Fenway?
He's always shown an ability to adjust to whatever the team needs him. Yeah. If they wanted him to be a power hitter, he would hit for home runs. But you're right. That's one of the things I wanted to touch base was the fact that Green Monster really helped, and he became one of the better, most consistent doubles machines in the last few years or so. Yep. Because of that. Him and Nick Castellanos are always neck and neck for that doubles title. So you're right. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in a notoriously pitcher-friendly ballpark in San Diego. I know they moved the fences in not too long ago, but still, it looks like it plays like a big ballpark, and he's coming off a season. Bogarts is hitting 15 home runs in his walk years. So, but hey, this is a move that the Padres need, just like the Phillies, for all the reasons that you had mentioned before. You need to do something and take advantage of the major league roster being this talented. But yeah, it's still a very top heavy lineup. Although I like this lineup a little bit better than the Phillies lineup because it's a little bit more depth. But yeah, they got some work to do, man. Yep. Right now, David Dahl and Luis Campusano are supposed to what do you call it? Shared duties.
Yeah.
Designated hitter. Jose Azocar is the left fielder. So I'm pretty sure they're not done yet. But they need to take advantage. They still are able to develop some pitching to fill out their bullpen and their rotation. But still, this is desperation mode for them, and for all the reasons that we mentioned earlier. That they need to really get off to a really good start. Otherwise, this might be the last you've seen of this Padres roster as is. Verlander to the Mets. So, yeah, people were concerned about the Grum to the Rangers, even though he's 35 years old, has a lot less mileage on his arm, but still a guy who has not been able to stay healthy. And then you got Verlander, who we talked about not too long ago. Isn't this the guy who needed 5 people pitching in Houston just to preserve his arm? You're a Mets fan, Sean. Do you believe that Verlander can go a full season with a 5-man rotation and the Mets won't need a 6-man rotation?
I think the plan right now, obviously, if you have both Verlander and Scherzer, you want them to pitch as much as possible while still maintaining, their health. Verlander kind of surprised me this year. Obviously, won a Cy Young first year back from Tommy John surgery, which is kind of why they did the 6-man thing, and he made 28 starts. The main thing that worries me with Verlander, obviously it's not ability, but a lot of innings. I think he pushed around 200 innings combined with the playoffs, 1 year removed from Tommy John surgery. is always a red flag to me. It's an exciting move though, because one, he just won the Cy Young. He's shown no signs of slowing down. And he's Justin Verlander. And it's a 2-year deal, a little bit safer. The only complaint that I have with that is in regards versus DeGrom. They both missed the equivalent of a year.
Yep.
But so many more people will be like, oh, DeGrom has missed so much time. They both missed a year. Verlander didn't pitch at all in 21. DeGrom pitched half the season in 21 and a little under half this year. And then Verlander made 28 starts this year. Their innings pitched were not far off. And DeGrom's 5 years younger. And it's funny because I went back and I looked the last few years that Justin was in Detroit, when a lot of people kind of thought that he was fading away. The strikeouts were way down. Velo was kind of backing up on him. He was about 32, 33 years old. Not much dissimilar from DeGrom. And now we have a lot of people doubting DeGrom, saying, he's 34, 35, he's cooked. But when DeGrom's been on the field, it hasn't been that. And even Verlander, he missed a little bit of time in those seasons. And like I said, I'd much rather have Verlander at 2 years than Rodon at 6. I'm excited to see him and Max compete against each other. I think that's my favorite part of this is apparently when they pitched together in Detroit, they weren't best friends, but they were like good teammates. And it was one reporter who followed the team at the time said something that was like, okay, Verlander would go out there and strike out 10 and Max would get pissed and he'd be like, okay, I'm going to go strike out 11 tomorrow. And Max is always a little crazy to begin with, but I think that edge at the top is very interesting. You just hope that they can stay healthy and fresh enough to last deep into the season.
Austin brings up an interesting point about we said the same thing about Machado too. Well, not we, but I think the general we we said the same thing about Machado too when he made the move from Baltimore to San Diego, and he's been hitting just fine. Yeah, but Machado's a much more explosive hitter. He's more of a home run hitter, whereas you mentioned it, Bogaerts is a line drive hitter. Very steady. I mean, he's averaging about a 134 WRC plus since 2019. Yeah. Machado's at 130. However, Machado has also has posted big numbers. He's posted in the 150 WRC pluses with more home runs and a higher exit velocity and higher hard hit rate, whereas Machado can get the hard hit rate above 50%. Bogaerts is around the 40% mark. So it's two different types of hitters. And the concern is that if Bogaerts is not able to go back to that 1 year, I think there was a 1 year where he hit about...
He had 33. 33 in 2019.
Thank you. He had 33 in 2019. That was his career high. I don't think he could do that consistent. I think he did it just because that's what the Red Sox asked him to do, and he obliged. Otherwise, he's been always a line drive hitter who hits a lot of doubles and takes advantage of the
I don't think he's a 500 slug plus guy. I did go back and look to see Bogaerts kind of came into his own in 2018. That was when he's posted, 5 consecutive seasons of basically a 130 plus WRC plus. He had 129 in 2020, but what's 1%? And on the road since 2018, since he became this version of himself, 10% walkout rate or 10% walk rate, 18% strikeout rate, right in line with career averages. He hit 284 with a 361 on base and a 464 slug. And this was away from Fenway. And he actually hit the ball up the middle a lot, pulled it a good bit. So this could be a guy that we don't really think about when we talk about shifts, but the guys that were just such good up the middle line drive, and even like when they hit it on the ground, they just know how to place the ball up the middle of the field. You take the shift away, he could get a couple more, just base hits from doing that. But like I said, and you said earlier, he's shown the ability to adjust. He's not going to be crazy, like 30 home runs, like you said. But 830, 840 OPS, solid approach, solid on base, 450 slug. I think he's a safe bet for that.
Yeah, probably. But still, I mean, it could get frustrating when you're trying to lift the ball in the air and they're outs. Austin brings up a good point that line drive hitter to hit it to the gap, that's a double like any other ballpark, just like in the Green Monster in Fenway. But there's also the tendency to hit the ball in the air more and not get the same results. The other thing I want to mention, you kind of scoff at the idea, another 30-year-old with an 11-year contract. What are these teams thinking?
I thought we were done with these, honestly. I honestly thought we were done with these.
I just wanted to point out that people get mad when 30-year-olds get 11-year contracts. And then people get mad when you give 21-year-olds 14, 15-year contracts. There's no in between. Everybody hates when these players get these long-ass contracts. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're at your peak, or if you're 30 and have proven your worth. It doesn't matter. Nobody likes seeing these players get paid. So anyway, that's.
I think it was just I think Cano and Pujols ruined it for a lot of people.
I think you might. I mean, that's exactly what I think about as well. And if you want to go, well, even Jason Hayward, who got.
He was what 26 at the age of signing.
That's
and
exactly
he got an eight year deal.
That's exactly what I was going to point out. That's probably not a good example because he got signed at 26-year-old, kind of like Machado and Harper getting signed before they hit the age of 30. But yeah, I mean, those are the names I think about: Cano and Pujols, and then history repeats itself with Judge, Turner, and Bogarts.
I'm trying to think of what Josh Hamilton got in years 5, 7. I don't think it was that long. He was an older player, but.
Yeah, late bloomer, but they bought into the fact that he was a high pedigree prospect all his life, and who got into some drug and alcohol problems, and that his life was truly turned around. And then he goes to Anaheim.
Yeah, it was a 5-year deal. So, but he was like he was 30 something. So I guess he didn't get some crazy 7, 8 years. For some reason, 7 was sticking in my mind.
Well, I was gonna say he goes to Anaheim and he gets into that bad Disney crowd. So you know how those stuff. Oh boy, come here, bitch! Get some smack in your face.
The candy coating wasn't sugar.
The mean streets of downtown Disney, man, home of the House of Blues. Dansby Swanson also is supposed to get some big time money. Do you know where he's going? Do you any direction as to where he might end up?
I could see Boston. I could see the Cubs. All these teams that were kind of tacked on to other shortstops that have since gone elsewhere. I think he's the pitching version or the hitting version of Carlos Rodon, but not for health, just because I think he's so drastically overperformed this year. And he's the fool's gold. He's the fool's gold hitter, and Rodon's the fool's gold pitcher. And who knows? Maybe your Cubbies will sign both.
You know what? Dansby Swanson to the Cubs, it fits right in. You told me fool's gold of a hitter. I believe you. I agree with you. Just like this Cubs roster is a fool's gold of just mismatch. They did get a little younger, so I'm glad that they got rid of all their 30-year-olds. It's a shame that they weren't able to flip them for some low-level prospects. But yeah, this team looks a little younger. It still sucks, but it does look a little younger. And Dansby Swanson replacing Nico Horner at short is probably what the doctor ordered. But you know what? That means slappy Nick Madrigal is going to be out of luck with no starting roster spot for him anymore.
Oh no, sad.
And Zach McKinstry might not get a lot of playing time either.
Zach McKinstry getting pushed out of the lineup. Oh, you're so upset about that.
Hey, listen, you still got to justify the Patrick Wisdom deal, right? Or the contract, or whatever.
Wait, did they give him? He has an extension.
He's listed on the team, so I assume that he might have gotten some.
He probably just non-tendered, or he got tendered a contract.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I do apologize, my screaming daughter out there. Next on the docket, Clayton Kershaw goes back to the Dodgers in a kind of a boring deal. Why isn't Clayton Kershaw getting a big contract like everybody else?
I don't know. I honestly thought because I want to say they announced this a while ago, but it didn't become official until just a few days ago. It would have been really cool to see both Kershaw and DeGrom suit up in Texas, but alas, maybe that'll happen next year. Never know.
Kershaw has 14 years of service time in Major League Baseball. Verlander has 17. Verlander 40 years old, a lot more innings on that arm. Coming back from Tommy John surgery, including Kershaw, pitching a pretty damn consistent year last season.
Yeah,
35 years old, and only gets a measly 1 year. You know what it is, Sean? You know what it is? This is what loyalty gets you. The real key to success when you're trying to get more of a salary increase in your life is just going from team to team to team. Big shout out to Carlos from Florida. I'm a big Mets fan. I think you might know him. Tuning in this evening. Thank you, Carlos, for tuning in. Moving down to Gene Segura, who we talked about. He's also a free agent. Does that name excite you whatsoever, Sean?
Not really, but I'm impressed that the Phillies, he had a $17 million option that they declined. And I thought that would go towards re-signing Eflin, getting one of these pitchers, which I guess they got Taijuan Walker for that. but definite upgrade to go from $17 million for Gene Segura to getting Trey Turner for like $27 million. It's a hell of an upgrade. They did a good job. He lands somewhere. He's just too pesky of a hitter to not get signed. I could see Miami. That would piss me off. A team full of pesky hitters getting another pesky hitter. The John Birdies and Miguel Rojas's of the world.
Yeah, no more shifts. So that's gonna bode well for Gene Segura.
Or he could end up back in the AL. Who knows? But yeah, he definitely gets signed.
Andrew Heaney going to the Rangers, and I'm looking at the roster for the Rangers, especially that rotation. And you know what, Sean? They don't.
Brandon Nimmo to the Mets. Brandon Nimmo to the Mets. Live here. Oh my god.
News.
Oh my god.
News.
Oh my heart. My heart.
Right.
Oh,
keep it in your pants, man.
I'm gonna try to.
But anyway,
it was a passing bomb.
I'm looking at the Rangers starting rotation, and you know what? I've been dissing that. What's wrong now?
8 years, 162 million. So it comes up to about 20 million a year.
Man, we're just giving 30-year-olds 8-year contracts now. I thought we were done with that.
Hey, that's the Shin-Soo Choo, Curtis Granderson archetype you're talking about here. They age semi-well.
Yeah, they listen, man. That's one skill that won't go away is the ability to take 4 balls for a walk, I should say. But anyway, getting back to the Rangers rotation, it doesn't look too bad, especially if everybody stays healthy. But it doesn't look too bad. I've been making fun of them. I've been mocking them a little bit too harshly. But you know what? Jacob deGrom, Martin Perez, John Gray, Andrew Heaney, and Jake Odorizzi doesn't look too bad at all. So maybe there is some hope for that team. Starting rotation in the minors, and I see they have a guy named Cole Winn at AAA. Spencer Howard might still be a thing. Glenn Otto is a guy that we like. Dane Dunning might come back and show a little bit more dominance. Cole Reagans is down there as well. So you know what? Call me crazy, Sean.
Okay. A lot of Mets fans are saying, "Oh, the Rangers suck. He went there for the money. He's going to be terrible." And I'm like, you guys, they have a top 10 farm system, and a lot of their top prospects, especially on the position player side, where they do need a little bit of help, are about to debut. Josh Young, Justin Foscue, the outfielder whose name escapes me, something Owen, Eli Owen, or something like that. I think they're just like one proven bat away. Nate Lowe had the breakout. Seager and Semien are still there. And after their first year, after a big contract letdown, which always happens, I think they're going to be a really solid team. And that American League West gets even more interesting.
Yeah, like I said, and the bullpen, it's always going to be a work in progress. But I mean, they got Jose Leclerc. Jonathan Hernandez is throwing 100 miles an hour back from, I believe, Tommy John surgery, if I remember correctly. And Brock Burke with a 1.97 ERA last season. Joe Barlow was the former closer as well. I think I believe his season ended pretty early because of some sort of arm injury. I don't remember at this point. You can feel free to correct me in the comments or right here live, Sean. But yeah, for all the reasons you mentioned, you know what? I apologize to the Texas Rangers. They're trying to do what the Phillies have done and just stockpile the roster with a bunch of major leaguers and hope that somewhere along the line they minor leaguers step up and help out and reinforce. Jose Abreu to the Astros. That's a hell of a deal for the Houston Astros. Jose Abreu signs for 3 years, $58 million. Another 3-year contract for Abreu, who we thought that he was going to retire a White Sox player, but no, he decided that he wants to play somewhere that's warm and that's an actual winner and that is committed to winning and competing, because the White Sox ain't it.
Yeah. And can you imagine him with the Crawford boxes now?
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Oh gosh. Awesome. Like the average might drop because he might just go straight pull mode all the time, but with his contact ability and oh gosh, I was excited about that. I felt bad for White Sox fans, but still,
no, man, we don't deserve anything. We don't deserve pity. We don't deserve anything good in our lives. This is what we asked for, and now we're taking it because we just assumed that things were going to happen and they didn't happen. Getting back to the Rangers, I'm just kind of curious where I had them ranked in my FUBAR rankings in terms of the bullpen. I thought I had them ranked pretty high. Oh yeah, middle of the pack, 16th place. So things, you know what? arrows pointing up for the Rangers this offseason. So
they'll get full seasons from Jonathan Hernandez, Jose Leclerc, and the other Barlow, whichever. I know there's the Barlow in Kansas City and there's a Barlow in Texas, and
yes,
they always confuse me.
Joe Barlow. Moving on. So we like the Jose Abreu deal, even though he's a little bit on the old side. So they replaced one old Cuban for another. The Astros do. Speaking of old, former Chicago first baseman, Anthony Rizzo. So forever and a day, Abreu and Rizzo will always be tied together like this. But Rizzo signs a 2-year, $40 million deal. Not too bad, not too shabby for him, for the 33-year-old. So that means the Yankees they brought the guys that they wanted to bring back in this offseason. And Rizzo looks like he's penciled in as a number 3 hitter behind Judge and in front of Stanton, with Gleyber Torres leading off. Josh Donaldson, though, as a little bit on the older side. But you know what, Sean, this is all those years of just sitting back and not trading any other position players. This is where it pays off, because now they have both Osvaldo Cabrera and Osbo Peraza in the starting lineup. So Brian Cashman, genius for not trading those guys away and letting the Astros win all those championships, right?
Yes, that's why.
You think they're done, or do you see Cabrera and Peraza really starting next in 2023, or are they going to bring in some veterans?
It's depends on what they do with Volpe, whatever. I think Peraza is a legit. He might be the opening day shortstop. Cabrera might make it, but just as one of those kind of the bench pieces that play a multitude of positions, the Jerks and Profar of the Yankees,
right?
Calling that now. That's the comp.
Yeah. No, it's not that. Hey, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Let's see what else. And
David Robertson, 1 year, $10 million to the Mets. God, it's like last year when the Mets signed 7 guys in like 4 hours. Oh, this is all live on the recording too. I'm gonna go back and I'm just gonna laugh at myself for freaking out over Nimmo. I apologize, but I don't.
Austin reminding us that they also have Jack Leiter, and the Rangers do. Jack Leiter and some guy named Rocker. I forgot his first name.
Kumar.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Kumar Rocker,
the Vandy pitchers.
I think, right?
Yeah. He went third, even though he wasn't expected to go till end of the first round, beginning of the second, after the Mets passed on him last year. But that allowed them to pick the top prep hand in the 2022 draft, Brock Porter. High school pitcher, right-handed. Very risky, but high upside stuff. They're building something over there. And I know a lot of people are laughing at the Rangers because they've been bad for so long. But guess what? The Cubs were bad for a really long time before they won. They went on their little run. The Astros were bad for a long time before they went on their little run. They've brought in one of the best managers of all time, in my opinion, Bruce Bochy. Completely redoing that front office. Chris Young taking over. I'm excited for the Rangers. I think they might be my AL team for 2023 to watch. I always pick a new one every year. Had the Angels 2 years ago, Mariners last year. So I might just stick in the AL West.
I think the issue with the Rangers is that this is another rebuild that they're trying to come away with after the first one failed miserably. That core with Profar. And I already forgot the other people. It was at the back end of Elvis Andrews and the third baseman, the Hall of Famer,
Beltre, Shin-Soo Choo.
Yeah.
Who is the center fielder? Did they bring in Michael Bourne at any point? I'm trying to think. They had some center fielder, and I'm never going to remember.
I don't know. I just think about Leotis Taveras.
Did you see what he did at the end of this past year? He was actually good. Yeah, he hit 7 home runs, had some stolen bases, hit 300. I don't expect that, but
I keep telling you guys, you never know what to expect from these guys. Low slugging percentage, low on base percentage, but he did hit 5 home runs and 11 stolen bases. Leody Taveras did at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's kind of like their prototype right now. With it was in 100. I didn't realize he played 100 games, but he had a hot stretch at the end of the year. But him and Adolis Garcia bring that team a lot of like young speed and guys that are just going to go crazy on the bases. And like I said, I like the blend of veterans, young veterans, old veterans, the Simeons and the DeGroms, the Seagers and the John Grays with their prospects coming up. The build just, and it's a good sized window because those prospects are just now coming up. And those veterans I mentioned are under control for another 3 to 6 years.
Some of the failed prospects failed. It's just the term I'm using, so take it or leave it. Willie Calhoun, Yeah,
Willie Calhoun.
we all like Willie
Oh
Calhoun.
man, he was so good in out of the park simulations. He never busted. Like that contact ability was so good.
Ronald Guzman, remember him, the big first
Oh yeah,
baseman,
there you go, the Condor.
and of course my favorite guy of all time, Nomar Mazara.
No more Mazar. Well, there had to be another center fielder. We'll look later. We'll just keep
Well,
going.
no, he was a corner outfielder.
Well,
Oh,
no,
you're talking about.
center fielder. I meant center fielder.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Well, I'm on the 2018 list. I know Willie Calhoun was one. Tavares is there. I don't see any.
Yeah, this would have been before that, I believe.
Was it Bubba Thompson?
No, Bubba Thompson came up last year and wasn't bad. I think he might be the one I was thinking of that came up right at the end of the year and actually did pretty good. The former first round pick from the Mobile, Alabama area.
All right. So, I mean, we can go back to 2016 and see what that looked like. But yeah, like I said, I think a lot of it is just the fact that we've seen several rebuilds just go to waste for the Rangers. I think that's part of Joey Gallo was at one point a guy that was supposed to be that next crop of Texas Rangers minor leaguers that's supposed to put them from point B to point A and maybe to a point C in championship. Norman Mazara was at one point Baseball Prospectus' number one prospect.
Wait, Leotis Tavares was?
No, Mazara.
He got all the way up to number one
for Baseball Prospectus. He did, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and some other of the older names like Rognet Odor, Alfaro, Michael Choice, Nick Williams. I remember Nick Williams.
Delino DeShields and Choice sounds familiar.
No, there was
Delino DeShields and somebody else.
Yeah, but the Shields was he came up through the Astros farm system.
Okay.
Yeah, and he got in there as a kind of a veteran. Hey, that's Nick Martinez I see here for the Rangers, number 12 back in 2014, the number 12 prospect for the Rangers according to minor league ball. Nick Martinez, I think that's the guy from the Padres right now, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Lewis Brinson is also on this list.
You're on the prospect. Yeah. Okay, I thought you meant for the Rangers. I was like, no.
Yeah, the Rangers top 20 prospect back in 2014.
Lewis Brinson. That was before he got traded for Lucroy.
Uh-huh.
Oh God, this is we're going way back now. This is hurting my head.
Just Alec Asher as well. You remember Alec Asher, right?
Oh, of course, totally.
Yeah, I think that was one of the guys they used to acquire Cole Hamels, I believe.
Leonis Martin. That was it.
Oh yeah.
I went back to 2014 and found him. Yep, Leonis Martin, 30 stolen bases. I remember these stolen bases, people. I wonder why.
They really stick out.
Yeah.
They really stick out. Anyway, Nate Eovaldi, I think we talked about him plenty. I think we talked about him a couple of weeks ago that he would probably fit in well with the Orioles or some team like that. Andrew Benintendi, I guess he'll be a Cub soon. But the real question I have for you, Mr. Flannery, is out of these two catchers, they're both in their early 30s. Who do you prefer, Omar Narvaez or Christian Vasquez?
You see, Omar Narvaez was really bad last year, but he's always been the guy that I trust in fantasy. Just as the number two catcher, I'm still going to pick him. I can't give up on the lefty hitting catcher. Always love those guys. The Stephen Votes, the John Jasos, and the Omar Narvaezes of the world.
Not me, man. The only catchers I want are the ones who don't really play catchers, the Ryan Domets of the world, and most recently, the Dalton Varshows of the world.
Yes, Ryan Domet. That's a name that comes out of yesteryear.
Yeah. Oh, man, I had high hopes for that guy. Hey, that guy plays right field, but he's eligible at catcher. You got to take advantage. Let's see. We go back to the Mets now because Jose Quintana is now showing up. You also mentioned that who the hell did they sign recently? David Robertson.
Yeah.
And Brandon Nimmo is back. So this is what the rotation looks like now. Verlander, Scherzer, Quintana, Carrasco, and David Peterson. Not too shabby. Bullpen looks much better now with Brooks Raley being acquired, as well as David Robertson, like you mentioned. So even with them losing DeGrom, the Mets are still having a very busy offseason, just tweaking the lineup ever so slightly. Jameson Taillon, that's a guy that Austin mentioned on one of these Express shows, someone that he really is high on, and I must have been asleep, or maybe I definitely was asleep. I just realized that he's now a Cub player. 4 years, $68 million. So not too bad for the Cubs.
Him and Walker almost went back to back. They both got 4-year deals right around the same AAV.
Wow. Okay. So let's take a look. Marcus Stroman still the ace of that rotation by default. Not Kyle Hendricks, as I kept telling Cub fans and everybody who could hear me, Kyle Hendricks is not an ace of any team. You know how I feel about that. But he fits. Kyle Hendricks looks stupendous as a number 3 pitcher here for the Cubs. Jameson Taillon at number 2. Justin Steele, who had a pretty darn good year last year, kind of a mini breakout for him last year at the 4th spot. And then Adrian Sampson, who's been up and down. And they also got a bunch of other guys like Keegan Thompson that can probably compete for that 5th man rotation. Bullpen looks a lot worse than it did last year, with everybody leaving and, all the comings and goings. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do to kind of bolster that bullpen. I think when Austin and I were doing the spreadsheets for the 2022 fantasy season and just the overall Major League Baseball season preview, the Cubs had an atrocious bullpen, and then all of a sudden they signed these guys left and right. And I mean, you mentioned it last time. All of a sudden they look respectable. So maybe the Cubs will do another one of those where they sign a bunch of guys very late in the offseason. So let's move on to Mitch Haniger. So the Giants missed out on Aaron Judge, so they get back on that horse and get Mitch Haniger, who, I mean, you talk about guys who can't stay healthy, and that's what the red flags on Aaron Judge. Mitch Haniger, I never know when he's playing or if he'll play or how long he will be out of the lineup for so long. And now he's going to the most awful ballpark for a hitter, but he did play in Seattle all those years, though. So
yeah.
Thoughts on Mitch Haniger to the Giants?
Very on brand for the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Just perfect for him. I mean, it's just one of those, like, we expect nothing out of it, and the Giants and Zaidi are going to use him in such a way that he kind of recaptures some of that old glory. Probably doesn't play as much to keep him a little bit healthier. He had that bulky, like, hip and then the hernia, and like he had just some weird things that kind of kept him out a little bit longer than you would have expected.
Let's look at the lineup really quick. Haniger, remember the Giants are notorious for just platooning everything and left and right, literally left, right. Haniger looks like he has this job all to himself in right field, and it's going to be some sort of timeshare at DH and at left field. And who's the center fielder? Oh, Jastrzemski. Yeah. I think it's going to be a timeshare at center field, left field, DH, and maybe even some of these other infield positions as well, because they do have to play Tommy La Stella regularly. Austin Slater has to find some playing time, so on and so forth. So we'll see how they distribute the labor there in San Francisco. Josh Bell in a nifty deal going to the Cleveland Guardians. So I don't remember who was it. Carlos Santana for them last year,
or which one?
For the Guardians last season. I'm trying to figure out who Josh Bell is replacing in Cleveland.
Josh Naylor still in the roster. So one of them plays first base every day. They go back and forth. I don't know.
Interesting. So yeah, Josh Bell penciled in as a cleanup hitter for the Guardians. So again, that's one of those. I mean, that you look at that team, it's like the most ordinary lineups you'll ever see. But I'm not going to question them at this point. They got a bunch of guys who could slap the ball around and can run bases. They play that 80s style, and Jose Ramirez is able to generate run production like nobody's business. One of the best players in the league right now. So with the shift going away, I think this lineup, who knows, Sean, maybe this will be the prototype for the future, right? Maybe gone will be the days where people are where major league teams are trying to create lineups where guys are grinding out at bats and trying to hit home runs and doubles and stuff. The Guardians are the future. You know what, Sean? The Guardians are the Kansas City Royals. The Guardians are the offense that the 2015 Kansas City Royals influenced back in the day. So it only took them 7 years. It only took 7 years for that to happen.
So Josh Bell is their Mike Moustakas. The plus contact with the best power on the team, but it's not even really that good power. Just kidding. Jose Ramirez still has the best power, but still. They're similar guys.
Sean Manaea, where's he going? Do you know?
No clue, and I don't really care.
You don't?
I don't like Manaea. Next.
Yeah. I'm usually the guy who, poo-poos on a guy like Manaea, but I had high hopes for him in 2022.
A lot of Mets fans wanted him last year, and I was just like, no. Why?
And he's already 31 years old. I did not know that. Elvis Andrews, little bit of a bounce back second half for him. So do you see him? I mean, he's 34. Do you see him get maybe a 3-year contract so he could play until he's 37? Or no?
I don't think he gets a 3-year contract. I do think he gets a 2-year contract. Not so sure about $10 million a year, but I feel confident in this projection. He's going to go to the Braves. He's going to be insurance against Swanson leaving. No, literally. He's going to be insurance. They have Vaughn Grissom, who they can play at second base.
All right.
But if Vaughn Grissom or something happens, they don't have much depth at the position aside from Braden Shoemake, who's another lefty shortstop heading infielder I've always liked, but he's still in the minor leagues. Elvis Andrus goes to the Braves.
Yeah. All right. I know. Orlando Arcia is still with the Braves. I think he's the guy.
I don't think he's been playing much shortstop lately, though. When he plays, it's like first base, third base, left field.
I might be thinking of somebody else.
Arcia was a shortstop, but he's like
it is him.
I think he put on weight though, or something. Like, let me look. I feel like he hasn't played shortstop, or I never see him play shortstop anymore.
Yeah, there was two guys for the Brewers, and I believe Arcia was the diminutive. Yeah, he was a diminutive shortstop that was supposed to be the Brewers' future.
Who was the other shortstop? Because I do vaguely remember that as well. The other one.
I'm trying to think. It was some guy named Osvaldo Arcia was. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so he's only played 6 games at shortstop the last 2 years. Arcia has. He's played 20 in left field, and he played 50 at second. He filled in for Ozzie Albies at second a lot when he was hurt this year.
That's crazy. That is insane. This is the guy who was just tailor-made for shortstop, and he was supposed to be the guy up the middle for the Brewers for years to come, and he just couldn't hit the ball out of the infield. Martin Perez, we talked about him already, solidifying the Rangers rotation. So we'll see if he can repeat the kind of the fluky season he had last year. He did not show up on any of our lists when we talked about starting pitchers. All right, Sean, I know you wanted to finish up with the guys who would finish with the 1.9 projected WAR, but we got to finish with this one. This was a big trade between the Brewers and the Mariners.
Okay.
And that'll be the only trade we'll talk about, and we'll see how much more we can discuss next time we're together. But Jesse Winker and Abraham Toro going to the Brewers for Colton Wong, which is just insane to me. I know that the Mariners have a crazy logjam in the outfield, but to get rid of Jesse Winker and then throw in Abraham Toro to make room for Colton Wong is just bananas to me. What do you think about that?
I think it's kind of more based in money, and they're making similar amounts, but it's an expiring deal on Wong. It opens up a roster spot at second base for top prospect Bryce Terang, who really got slept on because he never really had much power, but played the entire year at AAA, was insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets the Brewers a DH, something they sorely needed. I thought it was interesting that Seattle had, given Winker this extension, and then there was some article came out that he didn't like practicing. Granted, he was dealing with a neck injury all season that he didn't get fixed until the end. If my neck was hurting every day, I wouldn't want to be taking extra swings either. I like the move for both teams. I think it's a little bit of an overpay to get somebody like Colton Wong.
I think so as well, yeah.
But, Jerry Dipoto is going to Jerry Dipoto, so.
That's exactly it. Colton Wong had a very quiet 15-15 season last year.
Yeah, I mean, Wong isn't anything bad. When you look at it, you're like, for Jesse Winker?
He's not, yeah, that's what I mean. He's just so, he's like the Sarah Plainenthal of Major League Baseball. And this is coming from a guy who had lots of high hopes for that Cardinals trio of prospects that included Matt Adams, who I mentioned before. I saw him in an independent league baseball game this past season. Oscar Taveras, who died in a car accident, and then Colton Wong, who actually ended up surviving for this long, but to very mediocre. Mediocre is kind of harsh, but very pedestrian, I guess. Well, I guess that's not any better. But yeah, a very unassuming career for Colton Wong. And to Sean, he had a 339 on base percentage and a 430 slugging percentage. Pretty damn good for a second baseman, but it's still so underwhelming. But here's what the Mariners look like aside from Wong. Rodriguez at the leadoff spot, Ty France, Eugenio Suarez, Kyle Rowley on the cleanup spot. Teoscar Hernandez, who they acquired from the Blue Jays, Colton Wong, Jared Kelenic. So they're going to count on Jerry Kelenic, and they're going to put him in a platoon and hope that seeing nothing but right-handed pitchers is going to help. Tom Murphy, who is also a catcher, will now be the DH.
Who?
Tom Murphy.
Oh, Tom. I thought you said something else, and I was like, who? I had absolutely no clue who you were talking about.
And they still got your guy Cooper Hummel, and JP Crawford is still the shortstop. But Cooper Hummel makes a trio of catchers that involves Raleigh, Murphy, and Hummel himself, a former prospect with the Diamondbacks. Dylan Morris, Sam Haggerty, Taylor Trammell, who is a guy that they're not going to give up anytime soon. It looks like they still like him, and they like him enough that they got rid of guys like Kyle Lewis and Jesse Winker and all those guys. And then rotation looks pretty damn good with Castillo, Gilbert. So let me say the first and last name. Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, Robbie Ray, George Kirby, Marco Gonzalez. That is a potent starting rotation right there if I ever seen one. And of course, we have Marble at their bullpen this whole time. Over to the Brewers, Christian Yelich, Willie Adames, Roddy Tellez, Luis Urias. Luis Urias as a cleanup hitter. How do you like them apples?
Didn't he come close to 30 home runs this year or hit 30 home runs this year?
No, I see that he only hit 16.
Okay, he hit 6. I thought he had a close to 30. I might be thinking of somebody else.
Okay,
go ahead. Yeah, I mean, he's hit for a little bit more power of late compared to his prospect profile.
Right. He was supposed to be a line drive hitter when he was coming up the Padres system. Jesse Winker, Tyrone Taylor, who I don't know if he's going to be starting next year. I don't see it, but
a lot can change in that outfield.
A lot can change in that outfield. So
they have a lot of good outfielders. Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell's already on the roster
for now.
And, for now. Joey Weimer, top prospect. They're definitely very close.
And then they still got Keston Hiura, who might. That's your guy. They got rid of Hunter Renfroe so they can give Keston Hiura more playing time. And your guy,
that was the thing. They made all these moves, and I was like, oh yeah, Keston Hiura is gonna get more playing time, and no,
because they got to give Bryce Turing some playing time. They got some interesting pieces on the bench. Peyton Henry, who's a guy that we talked about, who I thought was was a pitcher, but he was a catcher. But we've mentioned him before numerous times. Mike Brousseau, that's the guy who hit a home run off of Aroldis Chapman when the buzzer in his body went off.
Lefty killer.
Yeah. Keston Hiura, and your guy, Esteury Ruiz, your actual guy, your real guy, Esteury Ruiz from the Padres. So interesting team, but it still doesn't look like anything threatening for the Brewers. And Abraham Toro will be starting in AAA according to roster.
I think Abraham Toro gets a roster spot over somebody like Brousseau or Ruiz. Personally, okay. I think they give him that chance. Brousseau, however you can pronounce it, they both give a lot of versatility. But I think Toro gets a little bit more, and maybe they tinker with him and actually fix him. And he's the guy that we really liked when he was in AA and AAA and had high hopes for.
We went through all the guys who are projected to get the 1.9 WAR who on the free agent side of things. Is there a guy on the below 1.8 that you wanted to discuss before we sign off for today?
Let me find it. I had closed that one. But yeah, there's several good names. Just because we didn't talk about them today doesn't mean they won't be valuable next year. There's guys that didn't play last year, like Michael Conforto. There's guys who had career years last year, like Brandon Drury. Just because the big names are off the board, that doesn't mean you've won anything or lost anything. Often the success of these teams, and it's true in real life and in fantasy, you don't win your drafts in rounds 1 through 5. You can lose your drafts 1 through 5, but it's what you do with 20 through 30 and picks like that and guys you sign that nobody's really expecting of that have the great year. Brian Anderson finally given up on Miami. Michael Brantley available. Noah Syndergaard. JD Martinez. There's lots of these guys still available out there. And it's been such a fun offseason so far. Don't you love my attitude on the whole offseason's changed with in the beginning of the show since Nimmo resigned? Just because these guys haven't signed yet doesn't mean they're crap. Doesn't mean they can't help your team next year. And I'm looking forward to the rest of it.
Ross Stripling is a guy that I'm excited to see. He kind of showed some consistency last year, so hoping that can continue. And you know what? He's 33 years old. You know what I say about pitchers who are turning 33, 34? Sometimes starting pitchers, the older you are, the better you seem to be. So we're seeing all the old pitchers get the big contracts except for Clayton Kershaw. So there must be something to that. Aside from that, there's not really any other guy. Joey Gallo. I'm never going to give up on Joey Gallo.
Matt Carpenter.
Oh, come on.
Hey, he had a 2.3 WAR this year. 217 WRC plus. 217.
Springfield. That's a hell of a town. Gary Sanchez is another guy I can't give up, but yeah, he sucks. Mike Clevenger signing with the White Sox is it's such an underwhelming deal, but I guess it's necessary for them, which is kind of sad. Anyway, we can go on forever and
Yeah.
talking about these players.
It'll
but,
be fun
we'll-
when these guys start to come off the board, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we start, previewing the 2023 season, we got a lot of things to go. Just because it's December doesn't mean, and the winter meetings are over, doesn't mean we're going to stop. We're going to keep going until we can't no more. As we enter the 2023 calendar year and we get ready to prepare for the 2023 fantasy baseball and real baseball season next year. But I'm looking at the calendar, Sean, and it looks like we might have maybe one, maybe two more shows, and they can't be on the weekend because the holidays fall on the weekend this year. So maybe we got a couple more shows before we call it a year, but
For
I
sure.
look forward to see what we come up with. And then, of course, Austin has the advantage of going on Thursdays or during the weeknights on the Express show, and he's doing his GOAT series. Second basis next is from what I'm hearing. So lots to talk about, lots of other things that we have in store for you. So with that said, that is Sean over there. I am Felipe over here. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one, everybody.
Adios.